Good evening, and welcome to the Marine Minor Creek Athenaeum. My name is Henrietta Toivonen, and I'm one of the ATH Fellows this year. The joint music program of the Claremont Colleges is shared between Scripps, Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Petrie Colleges. It is an essential resource for students who want to be engaged in music and performance during their time in college. In addition to the importance of this resource for individuals, it also adds an important dimension to the idea of liberal arts education. Tonight, the Athenaeum is continuing its tradition of hosting a solo recital from a graduating CMC student. Chilean Healy is a CMC senior studying philosophy, politics, and economics. He's a longtime student of classical piano, most recently under the support of Dr. Hao Huang of the Scripps Joint Music Department. He has been engaged with the Joint Music program of the Claremont Colleges since freshman year, and this is his first solo recital during college. As always, I must remind you that audio and visual recording is strictly prohibited. Please join me in welcoming Julian to the Athenaeum.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited to be doing this. I've gotten a lot of questions leading up to this, like, Julian, you play piano? Or, Julian, are you even good at piano? And fair questions, because you don't really know, and so I applaud you all for taking the risk of being here today. So I will be playing 3 different pieces tonight, the last of which is 3 movements. The first piece is written by Liszt. And I'll be saying a few words about each piece before I play. I think it really helps to kind of connect to the composer and the music as you listen. And I'll be taking some things from the program which I put together, and adding things to it as well. So Liszt is known to have been probably the best pianist of all time. He and Rachmaninoff are known to probably have been the best ever. About Liszt, I love this quote because it just really gives you insight into what it would have been like to be able to see him perform. It's written, "His playing mesmerized the public. He was compared to a lava-spewing volcano. His glory knew no bounds. He garnered wreaths in all countries of Europe, including Russia. In the streets of Berlin, Liszt was even more venerated than the King of Prussia himself." And I think the piece I'm playing by him is a really special one. I think it was very special to Liszt as well. And the reason is, it's called Funerai, and it's part of this song cycle of 10 pieces. And this particular piece was inspired by a failed Hungarian revolution attempt in 1849, after which several people who were involved in the uprising were executed. And a number of these people were actually Liszt's close friends and acquaintances. So I think it's a very emotional piece. And you'll be able to hear kind of the themes of war, of loneliness, of solitude, of hope coming through this piece. And actually, so one thing I like to do, which with each piece I play, is to create a story surrounding it. I think focusing on that story while I play and trying to communicate it to the audience through the emotion of the notes is for me what makes this classical piano really an art form. So this piece inspired me particularly in this way, and so I wrote up a very short, wouldn't even call it a story, but it's almost an archetypal journey of sorts. And so I'd like to read that to you now, before I play. And I've actually decided to stop reading a little bit before the end, in order to let you all decide how you think the story ends, given the music and probably about the last 2 minutes of the piece, and what you think the kind of the final mood is. So here we go. As our story unfolds, we hear the pulsating rhythms of hell. Gates open and close, vats exhale steam, furnaces are stoked, patrols walk their rounds, bones are crushed, everything remains in rhythm as thousands of new inhabitants are marched through a great entryway. Our protagonist is among these. As he finds his place and things around him quiet, he is finally forced to absorb his surroundings and take stock of his fate. As his perspective expands and he begins to take in the full horror that is hell, his sadness overcomes him and he is transported back to his life on earth. He recalls the sweetness of fruits and the bright greens of fields and forests. He thinks of loves won and lost. It isn't long before he begins to turn to painful memories of his misdeeds and is forced to remember the choices and actions that have led to his unenviable fate. As our protagonist contemplates spending eternity in hell, constantly suffering, he begins to wonder why. Why must he and the souls which surround him be sentenced to unending condemnation? No, it cannot be. As he gains steam, our protagonist begins to rally the souls around him, inspiring them to stand up against their demonic oppressors and fight. Quietly, secretly, they plan and organize, planting the seeds of a cosmic revolution. It has begun. Hell erupts in a frenzy of flailing arms, gnashing teeth, flying stones, and cracking whips. Each soul gives his utmost, fights until his muscles ache and his lungs burn. Thank you. The next piece I'll be playing is written by Alexander Scriabin. It's his fifth sonata. Scriabin wrote of this piece, "Today I have almost finished my fifth sonata. It is a big poem for piano, and I deem it the best piano composition I've ever written. I do not know by what miracle I accomplished it." And he actually figured this piece out on the piano in 6 days and wrote it down in only 3. So I think what he did with this piece is actually quite miraculous. Now, Scriabin was a fan of numerous arts, not only music, and one of these was poetry. And this short invocation he attached to the beginning of this piece. "I summon you to life's secret yearnings, you who have been drowned in the dark depths of the creative spirit, you timorous embryos of life, it is to you that I bring daring." Another thing about Scriabin is that he's well known to have had synesthesia, so when he heard or imagined sounds, he also saw color. And I think you'll be able to hear that when you listen to this piece. There are so many colors coming from the piano. For this piece, I don't have a story that's as long, but what I really like to think of and what I think helps people connect with the piece is think of your favorite curious character, whether it's Alice from Alice in Wonderland or it's Shakespeare's Puck, or someone the other day told me she thought of Dorothy from Dorothy of Oz, and this character unexpectedly lands in a strange new world. They don't know how they got there, and you'll be able to hear the suddenness of it all at the beginning of this piece very clearly. And this piece is about exploring this new world, journeying through it and having all kinds of all kinds of new experiences. And another thing about this world, which I think you'll notice, is that the same laws of physics and reality which we experience here do not exist there. Okay. So I have one last piece to play. It's 3 movements. Before I get to that, I absolutely have to say some thank yous. And I have some little things and maybe stories to go along with each. One is that, my mom and 2 sisters, Jen and Camilla, were kind enough to come, over more than half the country to be here tonight. And I definitely owe my mom a lot in terms of piano, and the reason is, just one example. So when I was little, I had friends who played video games, and I really wanted to play these computer games. And I begged, and my mom said, no way, you're not doing that. And I begged some more, and she finally made me a deal, which at the time felt like a really, a big win for me. And the deal was that I could play half an hour of video games for every 2 hours of piano that I practiced. And then, I absolutely have to thank Dr. Hong, my professor here. In addition to Professor Tatiana Thibodeau, who I had my first semester here actually, but Dr. Hong has been, my weekly lessons with him have been a highlight. He's been everything from teacher to mentor to therapist to friend, so I appreciate him hugely. And then, I have really great friends here on campus, and special shout out to the 9 Shades, and had to do it. But for me, deciding to do this recital, one of the reasons I did it was because I won't be here much longer, and this is a way that I have in my ability to try to provide something beautiful to the campus and give something back. So thank you all so much for being here. Now, one last piece, written by Beethoven. It's the Waldstein Sonata in C major, and it's called the Waldstein because it was dedicated to Count Waldstein, one of Beethoven's benefactors. But I think it's safe to say that the piece really doesn't have much to do with Count Waldstein. It's all about Beethoven. And to get at some of Beethoven's personality, which you'll be able to hear coming through the music, I'd like to share a story about Beethoven's relationship with another person of high esteem in the society. And this person was Prince Liechtenstein, and who was another early benefactor of Beethoven. When he moved to Vienna and originally had Beethoven up in kind of the attic in this little apartment, and within months Beethoven had become a favorite of his, and he moved him into like a beautiful suite and gave him anything he liked. So Beethoven began to find this attention to be a little bit too much, a little bit, I guess, domineering. He felt like he was being patronized. And so, one time, this prince asked Beethoven to perform for some of his dinner guests. And Beethoven did not like that at all. Beethoven was not a dinner entertainer. He was a master of classical music and one of the gems of his generation. And he absolutely refused, and the prince tried to convince him. He said no. And kind of this feud helped end the relationship. And there was an iconic quote that Beethoven left for the prince upon the ending of the relationship. He wrote it on a little note. And it is, "Prince, You are by accident, by birth. Who I am by myself. There are many princes and noblemen. There is only one Beethoven. Thank you so much. Will we have questions? I heard rumors that some people had planned questions to ask me, but it's up to you. No, does anyone have questions? I played this, when I've played before, sometimes people have a few questions after, so I'm happy to take them if there are any. Otherwise, great.
Julian, how did your story end?
Should we take a vote? I don't know if you guys are paying attention. Like, I still remember that, but you have any thought on it?
I think it ended very hopeful.
Yeah. So on the last page, there's a very hopeful part, and it's very much in a major key and light. However, after that, there's like a passage that sounds like maybe this is doomsday. So I think that so the reason it's archetypal for me is that we end up in these difficult places in our lives. It's not hell, but you can feel like it, and it can be tough. And sometimes we want to change the way life is, but at the end of the day, to me, what this piece is about, at the end of the day, this kind of cosmic order is just so strong. It's like trying to fight destiny. It's like trying to fight fate. So you have this hopeful part, and where they're real, coming together, we can defeat this. And but at the end of the day, the world is so much more powerful, and we have to learn our lessons. So. Thank you all so much for being here. I had a really great time playing for you. Have a great evening. Happy to play. Just walk up to me. Hey, I want to hear that piece again. I want to hear the demons. I didn't quite catch that, and I'd be happy to do it.